Welcome to the AI Beehive Podcast, Real Estate and Mortgage Pros. This is your buzz for smarter tech, faster deals, and less grind. Let's get started.
Well, hey there. Welcome to our next episode of the AI Beehive Podcast. My name is Ginger Bell. I have my co-host with me, George Chevalier. George, how are you today?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Shawn, welcome aboard.
Thank you. And our guest today, I'm so excited about. It is Shawn Ready, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for AI Advantage Agency. And Shawn, welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me as well. I'm looking forward to today's talk.
Absolutely. So, our audience is real estate agents, loan officers that really serve consumers who are looking to buy, sell, refinance. And it's interesting the dynamic we're in right now, just in terms of the housing market and rates. And so, staying in front of consumers and being able to, do it in an efficient way is important. And obviously, with the advent of everything that's going on with AI, I was excited to be able to share with our audience some of the tools that you offer at AI Advantage and how it can help them in their business. So I am just going to hop right in, and I want to kind of begin with, because I know you have clients who are in the real estate space, and you provide tools for them. So just looking at that, many loan officers and realtors struggle with outreach and having something that's simplified, easy to use, fits into their busy days. And so how can you, I know you do a lot of the B2B, B2 consumer protocols that you create. How can it help them to adapt and to fill their pipelines with some of the things that you create using AI? It's a big question, I know.
But it's a great question. Foundationally, when we built AI Advantage, and specifically the marketing department, I felt like it was really important to build systems and frameworks that we could depend on. And part of when you're scaling an agency, you have to figure out the best ways to go about outreach. And we found that a lot of outreach softwares out there that we could use to automate outreach, whether it was the channel was email or it was LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it was, just wasn't working because the messages sounded very generic and sounded like a robot. And as AI becomes more of the forefront for where people turn to use the technology to scale their business, those robotic undertones are going to become more of a problem through many different channels. It doesn't matter where you're reaching out from. And so because of this problem, we knew that this applied to many different industries, including professionals in the real estate industry who wanted to reach out to other professionals. Is we wanted to create a technology that allowed for a very personalized undertone. And we felt like this was very important to come across less robotic-like and more human-like while still using AI and receiving the benefits of being able to automate. So that is the whole reason we created Hyperscale OS, which is the logo behind me right now.
Cool.
That is our flagship offer. And as you mentioned, we have studied outreach in and out to understand what about the personalized messages really translates to grabbing people's attention and getting them on a call or whatever your call to action is. And we found that it's the relation of experiences. And so when you can relate around experiences, it significantly improves response rates by at least 20%. And we found this on a consistent basis. And so what we did was when we designed the software, we made sure to focus on bringing in the data points that would allow us to understand more information about the leads we provide to our customers. That way, the messages could be formed more about rapport, whether it's something in their educational history or work history that you can relate on, or groups that you're a part of, or interests that you both have. And it can call out those specific details, creating a more personal experience for both the user and the person receiving the message.
Wow, that's powerful, because in the real estate and mortgage industry, rapport is the name of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. No.
And people can tell the difference too. And that's the thing, as we started using AI tools, and, bots have been around for a little bit now, but you can tell the difference. And, people want to know that they are having a good interaction.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you are using data points, because that's one of the advantages of AI, is to be able to do that. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use George as an example. So George is a mortgage broker in Atlanta, Georgia. And so, if you were talking to George and saying, okay, here's what we can do to help you in your business, what does that look like?
Yeah. So say that you wanted to build more relationships with realtors in your area, or even full on like big enterprise companies that you want to build a partnership with. You need to be able to reach out to the right people, right? And there's so many realtors, but there's specific realtors you want to target who you might have a higher chance of creating a business relationship with. And so what we can do is, so there's a lot of data we feed into Hyperscale, but for this instance, I would look at who is active on LinkedIn and what type of content that they're interacting with. If they're showing interest in working with a mortgage broker, and they're in the real estate space and they're a realtor, if they are active, if they're posting, if they're liking posts of mortgage brokers, all of that information gives us the cues to, is this person a human who will likely respond and is interested in what you have to offer? So that's like one of the first aspects. And the other cool thing that is unique to Hyperscale is we look at the behavioral patterns. So say that we have a certain style of outreach for the real estate industry, and people are only responding to a certain type of outreach message. We're able to bring in that behavioral pattern into Hyperscale so that when we form your next round of outreach messages, they're better, smarter, and will have better results.
So really, it's like having a conversation with them kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing what their interests are, what their likes are, and then aligning them are they a good prospect for you as well?
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of our competitors, they use templates because templates are more scalable. It's a lot easier to scale this and fulfill projects if you're just using templates. But what we do is that's why we consider ourselves a full end-to-end service provider, because we start the process with really studying your ICP, your ideal client profile, and looking at specifically what you're trying to get out of our software. And so we do a lot of research and planning before actually putting your messages together. That's like the final step, and that's like 10% of the process.
So how long does it take? I mean, if you're, and George, I'm going to use you as that example, because something like this, especially for your realtor outreach, could save you a lot of time, right? So
really
how
cool.
long in starting something like this does a client typically see that they need to be consistently using it before they can start seeing some results?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions when signing up for a software like this. Like I said, we study the behavioral pattern. So say that we have an initial outreach message and they don't respond. We're also studying the user's like behavior with, like I said, how they're interacting with different things in the industry. And then we'll adjust the second or third sequence in the campaign to try to get the response out of the individual. Usually there is a 4-week like period where your account is getting warmed up to sending the messages. It's not sending as many messages per day in the beginning as it does by the time 4 weeks comes around. So there's like a warm up period. So you do have to be patient with getting results, but you will see the acceptance rates and response rates gradually increase exponentially. And that's because it's getting smarter with the machine learning over time. And that's like very unique to Hyperscale.
That's cool. So that's the initial outreach.
Yeah.
But I know you've also created some AI agents that handle the follow-up
Yeah.
and the appointment booking. So how realistic is it for a solo realtor or a solo broker like George to implement this kind of automation without a big tech budget?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the cool thing is part of our mission at AI Advantage when we first started out was like we were a small agency. And like I said, we're having a lot of bad experiences with lead gen companies who were making us pay at least $1,000+ and we weren't getting results. And so part of our mission in setting out to create Hyperscale was to create something affordable and accessible. Especially for minority-owned businesses. A lot of businesses in these smaller communities, like they can't even get off the ground because the first time that they try to get a software to build them revenue, they're getting ripped off and it doesn't work. And then the business closes. So our mission was to create something that was affordable and accessible, like I said. So we made sure our pricing was at a place that was low, and we made sure not to charge the first month subscription cost on top of the startup cost. We just do a startup cost and we say, hey, watch the results. After the first month, we'll start charging you a subscription cost. So our whole pricing model is set up around that same ideology that you just mentioned.
That's so cool.
Thanks.
George, I'll let you hop in because I don't want to dominate all the questions here.
Well, being a small brokerage, trying to compete with the large banks has been a challenge in the past, but now I see with AI entering the picture, it helps us to compete. What do you see as the future for AI with small businesses competing with the larger businesses in regards to marketing, maybe omnichannel or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, well, the beauty about AI is it allows you to scale at an unprecedented rate, right? Because you're not having to do so much manual work and you're able to focus on other tasks while the AI is doing what it's doing. It leads to an increase in productivity, but also an increase in results as you're able to scale a lot faster. And so I believe that this is a beautiful opportunity for any smaller brokerages or realtors or any smaller company at all, because they're able to get a broader reach by using the automation aspect of AI compared to before. They have less manpower, so they're not able to do as much. So I think that's the first aspect is market penetration will be a lot higher. And then the other aspect is just the quality, being able to access expert knowledge and recommendations without having to hire a consultant or bring in a fractional executive is crazy. Honestly, if you look back at like even 10 years ago, to be able to launch a whole marketing campaign and a whole marketing initiative and say that you're just a tech guy, you would need to bring in a fractional exec or a consultant or work with a coach. And now like GPT-03 can do all of that for you. And it's very good and it's actionable. So that's where Ginger, you mentioned like the agents, and that's where things get really cool, is because when we first launched the software, it was just the outreach messages and then the follow-up sequences. And then as soon as someone would respond, the user would take over. And then what we quickly found was, okay, AJ and I are getting really good response rates now. We're getting a ton of responses. My inbox is filled up. I can't even manage that. Now we're back to square one where I'm not able to manage the inbox. So if I'm not able to respond to people, the whole point of this is pointless. And, I don't have the time or bandwidth. And now we're back at square one. So that's why we introduced our response agent, which I love, because the cool thing is it not only does it respond when we send the outreach messages to prospects, but also, I'm sure we all get spammed with like the little ad messages or the sponsored messages on LinkedIn, and it will literally respond to their message, tell them, hey, great effort, but I think I could improve your outreach message, countersell them and get them to book a call. So that is probably my favorite feature from the agent. And of course, it's applicable to many industries. You can countersell for anything. So it's just training.
Well, that appointment, having that appointment set is gold, because, and it takes, it can take many times to do that. And I know you've had great success with this.
Yes.
And I've seen, I don't know if it's on your website or something I've read, but you have helped clients achieve over 1,900 sales conversions in 45 days.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so cool because when we first developed Hyperscale, and I don't even know if I mentioned this, we actually just developed it for us as an internal tool because we needed a tool so bad for our company. But when we saw the increased conversion rates at the staggering rate that, you just mentioned, we were like, okay, no, all agencies could use this. This is the tool that we know will create a consistent positive impact. And so that's why we turned around and decided to sell it. But yeah, it's pretty staggering how bringing the human touch back into things as we start to embrace more and more of AI is becoming more and more powerful at the same time.
Go ahead, George.
I was thinking, how we're talking about business to business. How about business to consumer? How is that?
We normally don't target business to consumer as much, just because the use case isn't as powerful with Hyperscale. But we have had some requests to do that, and we have done that. And the messaging sequence just looks different. The training that we give Hyperscale to launch those messages looks different, but we're able to do it. And the cool thing is that's because Hyperscale is all about evaluating each individual's behavior characteristics. It's not about just looking at a company, right? So that's why it can be applied to a consumer, because you're looking at each individual human being, and that applies to a consumer. So, yeah.
Wow. Powerful.
Well, I think one of the things you're talking about, Shawn, is something that we probably in the mortgage space don't put a lot of effort into. And I always advise anyone that I'm talking to, when they're putting together their marketing plan or their business plan. I do a lot of business planning.
Yeah.
And so few loan originators and real estate agents have a strong LinkedIn profile. And that's one of the first things that I say, because first of all, if you put your name into Google, that's the first thing that shows up is your LinkedIn profile.
It's very true. Yeah.
And so when you think about, and especially on the side, LinkedIn is obviously more of a business platform in terms of social media. But if you're wanting to market to consumers, George, those consumers are on LinkedIn as well.
That's true.
And the other thing that I think as an industry we don't do a great job of is looking at what are the other referral partners you can have. And that can be accountants. It can be financial planners. There's so many areas, and using LinkedIn as a resource and making those connections. I don't think anybody's doing that at all, Shawn, really, in the industry and leveraging that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's a huge opportunity, like even just from the marketing side of things. When I was looking at our Q2 and Q3 plan, I was looking at a lot of PR partnerships and relationships we wanted to try to establish. The way I went about that was just creating a campaign in Hyperscale, because I could target those execs on LinkedIn a lot easier than just doing a cold outreach email campaign that I know is going to convert a lot less because everyone's inboxes are spammed, right, with cold emails. So yeah, I think it opens up so many doors, not just to convert a consumer or a business to buying your product, but it also can help you run your literal business and marketing plan.
Yeah, because you're gaining information. So if you're using the tool to be able to say, okay, I'm going to use this to identify and just a whole your data points and sorting. And then also I love the fact you're finding what their interests are and what they're looking for and what they're liking. It can help you to create additional content in terms of your marketing. So in doing, your video marketing or your, webinars, whatever it is you're doing, it can help you to be better at your business and making a marketing plan to have an idea on what they're searching for and what information they want.
Of course. And when you put in the time to put out content on LinkedIn, which by the way, does help your acceptance and response rates. Like if you're consistently posting, it looks more legit. You look like a more active profile. It tends to help your conversion rates in the end. But on top of that, right, you're putting effort into putting content out. You see someone likes your post. It's like, oh, thanks. I appreciate that because I put time and effort into that. And that is actually part of the sequence of the automation, which is after we send the initial connection request message, it goes and it likes their latest post on their profile, like the automation does. And then on top of that, it endorses them for their 2 most endorsed skills. And so that is something that also helps build rapport, which is great. And a lot of people don't even do that like manually themselves. So yeah.
Okay, so let's back into that, because what you said is like, that's huge.
Yeah.
To get an endorsement on LinkedIn from someone, first of all, you notice it and it's like, oh, wow, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what you're telling me is it's going to find who you're looking for, like their comments, and interact with them by endorsing them, and you're not even involved with it.
Yeah, likes their posts instead of comments. But yes, everything you said is correct. And we figured this out too from the behavioral data of, people are responding a lot more when you like their post. People are responding even more when you endorse them. And so because of that data that we're studying, which is, the unique approach Hyperscale has, we figured that out and added that to the automation sequence.
Yeah. And if you took the time to do that, I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. Yeah. And so, I have certain people I follow. I always want to go in and do that. And then, I'll get busy and it's like, oh, I'm traveling or whatever. It's like, and then I don't do it. It's like, oh, I need to hop back in and do it.
Yeah.
So being able to automate that, it's like, huge.
It's a game changer. And something about automation too is so many people think, well, it just takes me a second to go like their posts, or it just takes me a second to go endorse them. To be honest, the magic is, as an exec or a professional, you don't want to have to constantly switch gears. It kind of rocks your whole day and productivity schedule if you have to just go like someone's post, go endorse someone, and then you're sending like 400 messages, right? That adds up. That time adds up. And so people often underestimate the time savings that come from Hyperscale. But I mean, it's at least 13 hours a week is from what we calculated. So,
wow. Yeah. And I would probably say even more than that.
Absolutely.
And it's a bonus because I can tell you a lot of people aren't doing it even once or twice.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're adding 13 hours
Yeah.
of something that you're not even doing right now that can generate additional business for you.
Yes, exactly. And then you think about your ticket price. I mean, most of the clients we sell Hyperscale to, whatever they're selling is much, much higher than our price point of $500 a month. And so the return on investment, right? Not even just looking at the time, but the ROI on their business model. I mean, we haven't had a client who hasn't had a much higher return on investment.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Shawn, we have loved having you on this episode. I know we're going to have you back because there's a lot of different things that you can unpack. And I have a feeling you're probably going to end up adding some additional tools because I know you guys and your team are really smart about doing that. So,
I appreciate that.
Tell our audience how they can find you.
Yeah.
And just give them one thing right now. You're a real estate agent, you're a loan officer. What's one thing that you can do to help them in their business?
Absolutely. Hyperscale will help connect your business to the right people at the right time in the right way. This is the smarter way to run your business. Even if you were just a real estate agent or you're a broker, it can connect you to partnerships, even if it's not directly to consumers. And this will have a return on your investment. So it's something I highly recommend. And we're always making it smarter. Our training data is always making Hyperscale smarter because of our machine learning algorithms. So over time, it's always going to be better. And if you want to check us out, AIadvantageagency.co. Hopefully the link will be in the bio. And it'll be the first thing on our landing page. So you can check out Hyperscale and book a call with our team. We'd love to tell you more about it.
I love that. Thank you so much, Shawn. Thanks. George, thank you. Yeah, and of course, you can find AI Agency Advantage at aibeehive.com. So go there, check out our directory, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in to the AI Beehive Podcast, where real estate and mortgage pros get the buzz on all things AI. Don't forget to subscribe, share the buzz, and visit www.aibeehive.com to keep building your smarter business. Until next time.